Alright, back today with the Amiga. Last week I made a video where I bought an Amiga 500 and I talked about using it for creating music. I talked about a few of the challenges that I'm facing now that I bought this computer from 1987 to get it to work. So one of the challenges, or the first one, is getting a picture out of this computer. It has two different monitor outputs, but of course not HDMI. So I need to convert one of the two signals into an HDMI signal so I can use it with my mother monitor, and I can also record it so that you on YouTube can actually see it. The second challenge is to get software. I want to use a tracker software on this on a floppy. So that was the second one. And the third one is I need to get audio in it because I want to sample my own sounds from synthesizers or drum machines or vinyl records. So I need some kind of sampler module to get sound in. Let's start. The first one, the picture. As I told you in the last video, and I'm going to show you now, there are two outputs. So you have the RGB output, which is color, which would be the nicest one to use. And then there's the composite on an RCA jack. I've been searching on the internet and then I came across a little device that looks like this. Yep. So it's an AV to HDMI converter, upscaler 1080p. So the input is composite. It's on the yellow. It's on the yellow RCA jack. It should work to use the composite out, which is black and white. That's unfortunate, but I think since I'm gonna use this Amiga for creating music and not visuals, that's gonna be fine. And then the output of this converter is HDMI, so then it should just work with my HDMI monitor. And this is a powered device, powered by USB. And then there's two audio inputs, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to take the audio out and put it into my Focusrite sound card. So that's the first problem solved. Then when it comes to getting audio into this machine, there is a parallel port on the back, and I've been searching in the internet and I came across this project called Open Amiga Sampler. So there's people that have been creating a new circuit based on the old ones that are very hard to get now. So I'll show you. So I got this one, the Open Amiga Sampler. It has the correct port. It has a stereo input, but it samples it down to mono, which is good to save space. And the good thing about this one is that it has a volume control. So you can control the volume going in. So you don't necessarily need to control it at your synthesizer or at your mixer or whatever. So that's really cool. So I'm really excited about this. It says here that it should work with most of the trackers. You don't need additional software for this thing to work. So that's great. Let's try that. And then the third challenge was to get software. And I also found that on a floppy disk. I found Protracker version 3 beta for Commodore Amiga. So yeah, now that I have all these three parts, let's connect the Amiga and turn it up and see what I get. All right, I hooked up all the things to the Amiga, the mouse, the power supply, the sampler, the HDMI converter, the audio out, and now I get this. No signal, that's true, because I haven't turned it on. So let me turn on the power supply of the Amiga and see what happens. Yes. All right, so now it asks that I insert a floppy. So yeah, I'm going to insert the floppy disk now. And let's see what it does. So you can hear the floppy drive crunching. So it's going to be in black and white because I'm using the composite out, which is unfortunate, but it's an easy fix. If you know how to convert the color output to HDMI in an easy way. So it says Protracker version 3, release 0, 92, 93 by Crypto Burners. And this is the intro. Okay, I'm gonna cut that short because... Okay, so this is Amiga Workbench. We have our floppy here. If we open it up, And then it's Protracker 3. So double click on this. It says attempting to load program. That sounds a bit worrying. And you need patience for this. Alright, Protracker version 3 beta. The developers. Alright, now we have it. So this is Protracker version 3. I mean, there are many different versions of Protracker. They all look a little bit different. Here you can see the 4 tracks with the 64 steps. So I'm gonna go to sampler and I'm gonna put on a record behind me and sample some drums. Okay, so I have the sample monitor on. So when I press start on my turntable, I should be able to hear the sound. You can already hear some kind of crumble. Okay, we have sound coming in. So at the moment that I press sample, which is actually a right mouse click on this button, which took me forever to figure out because yeah, this software is not very intuitive. The screen blacks out. So for some reason it can't display the picture and sample at the same time, but that doesn't really matter. So now I have recorded the drum beat. And when I press Q on the keyboard, I have it, I can play it back. And it's automatically pitched to the keyboard. So when I play Z, I have an octave lower. I can even play it. Okay, so now that I have this sample, I'm gonna clean it up. So I'm gonna cut away the beginning. And I just want the kick basically. So I'm gonna take everything away. And then you can really work precisely in this. So now I have a kick. I'm gonna name it kick. And I'm gonna sample the snare now. So same procedure, monitor. So now I have the snare. The mouse is a bit, it actually has a physical ball in it, not a laser mouse, of course. Takes a bit of getting used to. I mean, considering this is from 1987, or I mean the computer, but the software is from 1993, it works not terribly. So you have immediately, so it's really crunchy when you pitch it down all the way. You basically have 3 octaves. Call this one snare. And now let's go to the sequencer. Here's the tempo. So let's put it on 105. And then here you can select which sample. So I have the kick and the snare. So I'll start with the kick, go to edit, that spacebar. And now I can, you see, I can put in some kicks. So let's put in 2 kicks. Okay, now let's go to the snare. I'm gonna put the snare in the second column or the overview. So the snare is on the 4. Let's play this. Yeah, that doesn't really. So let's start with a very basic beat. So yeah, there we have it. A kick in a snare in the Amiga 500, sampled from a record. This is very basic, but it is a start. The Amiga works, the picture works, even though it's black and white. For now, I'm gonna go with this because I want to focus on the sampling and learning the program and learning all the commands, because if you learn all the shortcuts, you can be quite fast on this kind of machine. The audio works, it sounds crunchy, but not too crunchy. I think this is definitely usable. I'm also looking forward to sample melodic things in here because it's automatically, every sample is automatically pitched to a 3-octave keyboard. And even though it doesn't have MIDI, you have to just use the Amiga keyboard to play melodies. I think it's going to be nice to have to sample like synthesizers, guitars, and then pitch it down and create sort of basic melodies. And the other thing, I have to kind of figure out the best way to record this into Ableton and use this to further, add other stuff to it. There's no MIDI sync or anything, it's just a tempo, and that's for next video. So if you have any questions or any advice or tips and tricks for the Amiga, let me know in the comments, and see you in the next one.